Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, a new kind of podcast where no topic is off limits. We're bringing in experts and owners to have the conversations we should be having as a dog community. Each week, a new guest will share firsthand experiences, educational resources, or professional guidance to help you learn and grow along with your dog. You won't get one perspective here, you'll get them all, because every dog is different and every owner is too.
You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk, or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms.
This episode is sponsored by Pet Matrix Premium Canine Supplements. Straight Up Dog Talk is super excited to be partnered with Pet Matrix. After exhausting several other pet supplemental brands, I am now seeing the results that I have always been searching for Toby and Fitz. Pet Matrix supports all three pillars of canine wellness using their cell matrix delivery. It delivers nutrition directly into the cell. If you're looking for a supplement that pairs with nature and science, look no further and get your dog on Pet Matrix today.
Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and we're back again with Josh.
Hey there.
And this week we have Carly from Dare to Dream Dahls, who is actually an ethical breeder and here to present the other side of the argument when it comes to adopting and breeding. How are you doing tonight, Carly?
I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is Em and I, we've already discussed this, but we need this for the community more than ever, I would say, in all of my years in the dog community. So I'm really excited to be here. So thank you guys first off. I did want to tell you guys a little bit about my childhood with dogs and kind of how I came to be a breeder. I find a lot of people kind of get hung up on the fact that I owned a rescue dog before I became a breeder. And that's something that really kind of throws people. So just to start off with childhood, and I forgot to tell you this funny story, so I figured I'd share it now. When I was little, my parents constantly said, you have to go introduce yourself to the person before you go and pet a dog. Like at 4, I wanted to go be in line to any dog I saw. And my parents said, no, Carly, you got to go up to the adult. Don't go up to the dog first and ask. And this is before we really knew about on-leash children meeting dogs and stuff. This is way back. So they used to say I'd run up to the person and be like, hi, my name's Carly. Can I pet your dog? Like as fast as humanly possible. And I'm like, and they didn't notice I had ADHD. Are you kidding? But I look back and go, oh my gosh, I see it every time. But the poor person couldn't even get the words out before I was trying to get to the dog. But no, I've always been a dog person. And I joke often that my family, I swear I was adopted. It's a common joke, but I'm more of a farm kid that was born in the city, and it just in a suburb, I should say, not really the city, but I didn't fit with my family. Like I could have had backyard chicken. Like I wanted it all. That's why I have it all. And I can't say no to things because I'm an adult, and scary when you're part kid still. But so our first real dog was a miniature schnauzer named Tess. We got her when I was about, I want to say 7 or 8. And I had begged and begged and begged. And finally, my dad is one of those people who truly, he inspires me because he does the research. He's not the type to anything he buys. It could be $9 at Canadian Tire. And he does the research. He does the reviewing. But he's awesome. Like now that I'm an adult, I'm like, hey, Dad, can you check this out? Can you look at this heater for me? Or he's great. But he did the research. He went to the Canadian Kennel Club and learned all about it. And my mom was quite scared of dogs, actually. So she grew up in the country, and it was very rough little town, and dogs were somewhat feral for the most part. Either they were in your house like pet dog, but for the most part they were property dogs, farm dogs. So they didn't love kids. They were kind of like, why are you around? So my mom had never been bit, but close enough that it's not her thing. So we chose the Schnauzer because they're little. They're a little less shedding. My mom loves cleaning, true OCD parent. So anyway, we ended up with Tess. And that dog honestly saw me through everything. You think back, it's first boyfriend, first day at school, I walked her, all of those little first things. And my dad and I would say, and my grandma were closest with Tess. And when I hit 15, she got really sick, and it was fast, very, very fast. It was within 3 weeks, she was deaf and blind. She was knocking into things. And they basically said, you guys can do the testing, but at this point, she probably has cancer and it's probably running through her. And the minute she couldn't go to the bathroom or eat, we had to call it. So we ended up putting her down, obviously, with our vet. And my dad was like, it still makes me cry, but my dad was inconsolable, like could not. And I told him, like, it's okay, Dad, like you can go and I'll stay with her. Looking back, as someone with PTSD now, I'm like, oh, that was probably like, it was nice of me to do, but at 50, I don't think I realized the ramifications of what that did to me. But it was important because I valued the whole life of her. If I saw it through, I think, and I needed that. So as someone with anxiety, I know a lot of us come with mental health issues with dogs, but I needed to know that she was gone and that I had said I was with her. That was my thing. So anyway, that was my most start of traumatized with dogs. But no, after Tess, I kind of thought, okay, I'm 19. I met my now husband and I wanted a big dog my whole life, like golden retriever, German shepherd. I love Tess, but not the dog I wanted. And she was so reactive on leash. Like, that little dog where you're like,
yeah, his name was Odysseus.
I love that. Yeah, everyone always comes up with their name. They're like, oh, that one down the road or the one that we had. And yeah, no, honestly, at the end of the day, she was a great dog, but she was a true, like, what I try to not raise my Pomeranians as, for the record. But no, my husband and I decided, okay, I was in university. I was going through a lot of mental health stuff, which I will say, use caution when you have mental health stuff and you go get a dog. We'll talk about this later, but please research, know what you're doing. I know it's very easy. We see these reels of, my dog got me through, but it's a lot and I almost snapped. So I just want to be very transparent on that. Dogs can be very helpful to healing. They can also be a very big burden and you can feel a lot of guilt. And of course, Em and I've discussed this, I went the rescue route. I was adopt, don't shop through and through. Not to the level we're seeing online now, but I was adopt, don't shop. Why bother buying from a breeder? And I grew up with a dog from a breeder. So I just thought he's the best dog. Well, he's a shepherd. I think he's a shepherd coonhound. We are going to embark him, but he was roughly, they said 11 months. Well, his North Carolina paperwork said 2 to 3. So it's like the minute they come in, they kind of scratch that out, which again, we'll get into later, but they scratched that out and put, okay, no, like 11 months sounds a little better, I think. So he was like a nutbag. Like there's no nice way to put it. He is a sponge shepherd. He's exactly what I needed at the time. I was obsessed with shepherds. Just to give a little work background, I had worked in a kennel for over 8 years at this point, and I could bring him to work. So I must say I have a lot of bonus points in that my rescue could come and run at work with me and stuff. So he wasn't left in a crate all day. There wasn't as much decompressing because he actually liked going to work with me. It was exciting. But my husband and I, we got him and I said to Em the exact same thing. I go, oh, I want a rescue dog. I can get a rescue dog. Like you just get the rescue dog. You go, you pick one out and hunky dory. And I had worked with dogs for years and I did not realize what I was signing up for. Like not even a little bit. And Ruger's, they had a paw it forward thing going on. So his adoption fee was like $150 off. And I walked in, I filled out the application. I met him first, and then filled out the application. They asked me basically my address, my name, my partner's name, and like we live at the same address, obviously. They asked for a photo of the house and they asked for if we had a backyard. That's it. And I left with the dog after I gave him $150. So coming from now my side of things, I feel like as a community, if we could come together a little bit, breeders could really help rescues out, especially breed specific rescues, because we know what to ask and we have the time to ask. So if a shelter would just get behind okay, she's a breeder, but she's doing it in the best way possible and she's growing and she's learning, then I could help, Pomeranians find homes that are from rescues because I know the personality, I raised them. So it's just one of those things where I think this podcast is extra important for those types of bridging those, the people that aren't too extreme and can listen to the other side. Because don't get me wrong, there's people on the other side that's like, I wouldn't touch a rescue dog with a 15-foot pool. No way, no how. Go to a breeder. Rescue dogs can't be reformed. They can't, you know what I mean? There's both sides of the extremism. And then, sorry, just the last little part about my history, because I guess a lot of people haven't heard about it, but I worked for Dogtopia for a year. And that's an indoor doggy daycare. It's a massive franchise, way more popular in the US. You guys have a lot more people than us in Canada. But it's indoor doggy daycare. And I lasted I think it was just shy of a year as the canine manager. The staff revolve just so fast. It's a revolving door. And they're ill-equipped. They're not trained properly. They're in a room with, like, on my one training day, I was telling a friend I was in there with 67 dogs by myself.
I was so I went to school to be an English teacher, and I was in a class with about 50 kids, and
You just feel like you want to melt into the wall.
yeah, there's no chance, and the expectation is, well, we'll keep control. 67 dogs or 50 junior high kids? No, absolutely not. Not a chance. Yeah.
No, it's not possible. And the thing is, like, I can't blame the staff because some of them started love dogs. And then they were like, I can't do this anymore, because you have to think these are people that are going to dog parks. Because if you're going to doggy daycare, 9 out of 10 times you will go to a dog park because you think it's a good one. And, I have my opinions on that too. But honestly, as someone, and I'll always comment on people's posts asking for opinions, obvious keyword, asking for opinions. But I will always say, if it's a trainer speaking about the risks of doggy daycare, I will always chime in and be like, I trained all the staff there. I put my dogs in the daycare. I'd never take them back. So you really have to listen to the trainers and the people saying don't do it. And I know they check vaccines and stuff, but the temperament test alone would shock you. It's maybe 5 minutes maximum. And then it's you put the dog in the room and see how they do. And so that means you have a new dog entering the room with 67 dogs that are in their pack. And then not only that, I have to also clean up, your dogs relieve themselves how many times in 8 hours at doggy daycare. I clean that all up. Well, I have to have eyes in the back of my head to know what dogs are cueing. And I've said this once, I'll say it again, I'll die on this hill. Most dog owners don't know body language. So how in the heck can staff who know limited, they're new to it, they watched, one video of the dog's lip curls. Well, I'm picking up diarrhea right now, which is very hard to do. And there's dogs having a scuffle and I'm supposed to grab a pail of water and that's going to, it's just, I just want to be honest with people and shake them and be like, your dog park, you've had good experiences. It takes one bad one to take all of your socialization and your good in public and all those things you need to fundamentally have a dog that you can take out and go get a coffee, with your husband or whatever. And anyway, so personally, does it work for some? Sure. But I've just seen the other side of it. I've seen the burnt out staff. I've seen the dog scuffles. I've seen the liability sign-offs. You sign it away for the most part. You're throwing them into Fight Club, basically. Take your kid. Okay, Johnny's going to have it. And we hand out a report card that says, the first 3 days they did great. Now that I've kind of even learned, as a breeder, I just learned way more having multiple dogs in my house and stuff. I look back and I'm just oh my, the dogs that we let in, because also they don't, this is a lot of doggy daycares that are franchised, I should say, not mom and pop, but they don't want to lose the sale. It's a package. It's a whole thing. They hand you a script and go, sell. And I'm the canine manager, so that's not my job. My job's to make sure, a dog's safe going in the room. Well, very quickly, like I said, I lasted 11 months and I was done because I was like, no, two of my staff landed in hospital for bites. So it's just one of those things where you got to say, I don't agree with it anymore. It's great if you want to use it, but it's on my application for my dogs. If you're applying for one of my dogs, do you plan to go to doggy daycare? And I'm not someone that goes, if they say yes, no, you're denied, but I'll have a very long chat with them about it and just say look, this is my experience, because anyway, it can be so dangerous. And I've had friends that swear by it. And I've said my piece and I leave it be because it's just one of those things. Anyway, so that's what really, that did me in for working for other people with dogs. That was my, and this is at the start of COVID too. So I was at my mental break. We had shut down for a month and I just said, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I'm worried about my staff. I can't sleep. I'm working way past my 8-9 hour shift because then I go home and I'm trying to schedule me to be in the room with the dogs. Because again, it's Carly, can you come relieve me? Well, then I'm relieving those rooms, those 60, and I'm bouncing from room to room to room, which is okay because there was some level of balance, but one thing goes off and the whole room's different. So I just decided mental health wise, I was back. And then I actually got into bunnies first and I started bunny breeding. That lasted about a year and I loved it. I still have my retired bunnies now, but I knew it was kind of, and this might sound terrible, but I knew that if I could hopefully fall in love with bunnies and raise them and place them in good homes, do an application, do a phone interview, all that, that I could hopefully do dogs. My mom's biggest fear was I'll breed a litter and not be able to sell one puppy. And then I'll have, 10 Pomeranians in our house that aren't even breeding dogs. They're all from the same litter, which we know would be a nightmare, and don't do that. So I was like, no, I can't do that. But the bunnies went good. And then I told my husband, okay, can I do this? Basically. And like, God bless his soul, was like, yeah, I can see it. So I was doing kind of private nanny, which I've done some stuff with kids. And I started my business, and I just basically started getting my golden retriever first. And it was just boom, boom, boom. And I got very lucky with my Pomeranians. I ended up getting offered a pairing, and I just kind of put little messages to people in my area, if you're rehoming any adults. But like, one of my first experiences with breeding, and it was a show breeder, and she was lovely. She was the one that kind of originally had the pair. So I was kind of communicating with everybody just to get an idea about, like, personality wise, what do they like? What do they eat? And so she kind of said to me, they're fully health tested. And I was like, perfect. That's what I want. So then, like, a couple days passed and the dogs were doing great. They fitted with my pack, no problem. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start printing off their health certificates. So I go into, I can explain this more, but OFA, which is the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals. So that's where you can it's a database, and you can pull up any breeding dog, any show dog that has, it's called a CHIC. It's a CHIC number. And basically every dog has one. So say, Tater Tot, for example, his is, whatever 10 digits, you plug that in and it'll pull up every health testing he's had with any breeder. Like, it could be, he's been in 3 homes, it'll pull it up. So I'm sitting there and I like pour my coffee and I'm typing in their CHIC numbers and nothing comes up. So I'm like, current panic level 100. And I'm like, okay, I'm ADHD. I definitely typed it in wrong. Like, this is, you go through it 5 times where you're like, okay, it's definitely me, because it usually is. So they don't have any OFAs. So they're supposed to minimum have patellas, cardiac, and eyes. Those are the mandatory breed specific, which is another thing. Every single breed that's purebred is on there. So you can go and say, I'm interested in a Yorkie. What should the breeder have as mandatory? And then there's also optional, which a lot of new breeders like me start off with mandatory, and then we work our way up, adding in those extra testing. Just being honest, financially wise, it's just what we do. And I feel like mandatory is kind of in my opinion, bare minimum. Like, that's what you should have done. And I know other breeders don't do OFAs, which is a different topic. But anyway, I couldn't find them. So I started to panic, and I messaged the lady who had just sold, she just sold the dogs to me, and she was kind of the middleman, and she sold a litter, like, saying OFA register or OFA certified parents. And I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. I was like, you might have to message your families. Well, anyway, Em was laughing at me, but I said within like 24 hours, I was like, all right. And I got them scheduled. Like, it just happened to be the OFA clinic was running near us. My vet could do cardiac. It ended up working out just fine, and they did pass. But like, the anxiety of spending like over $6,000 on a pair of dogs, and like not knowing that, like, and finding out, and they had embark, I should say that. So anyway, I kind of started like gently drilling her with questions, because she had offered to mentor me. She's a show breeder. She's judged in shows. This isn't Continental. This is Canadian Kennel Club, on the same playing field as AKC, although I feel AKC is much higher. But she goes, yeah, I don't embark. And I said, and she's older, right? So I kind of explained why I want to embark. I find it kind of like the bare minimum. And she goes, there's not enough breed specific traits or markers for Pomeranians. Okay, so what about the 228 other factors and genetic predispositions they could have? No, not worth it. Okay, fine. So why don't you do OFAs on the dogs, like cardiac, eyes, and patella? She goes, because at this point, Pomeranians have inherent bad patellas. Like, it's very, very common. Toy breeds, toy poodles have the same thing. And she said, basically, it's not worth washing a dog that has like grade 2, maybe minor grade 3 patellas, because, that it has all the other qualities. And I'm like, okay, but you're selling to pet homes. Regardless if you're a show breeder, you still end up placing 95% of the dogs that aren't going to be your next and upcoming line that you want to show or that you see promise in. So that gave me a very big insight into registered dogs and just the downside of some of it. And I want to be very clear, and I say this to Em, I post it all the time on my page, more is more. When you are buying a dog, more is more. If it's a rescue, more history. Obviously, bite history. We need to know, where did the dog come from? Was it picked up as a stray, which a lot of them are, and I know you're not going to get it. Just ask for all the paperwork. And then if you're going to a breeder and you're spending like what I consider big bucks, it's big bucks to us and it's big bucks to raise them. You got to ask these things, because when people say health test it, there's no reason if, maybe older breeders not so savvy with internet, but 90% of breeders should have that on their website. There's no need to not. I don't want to go have to email like 10 people this certificate and that certificate. You just go to my website. I let you click like to OFA and I just give you the number. You just input it like you would if you were doing like Canada Post and you were getting your mail delivered and you want to see where your package was, kind of thing. Same thing. So I just always tell people, more is more. You want more. You want titles. If you can get a dog with titles, get a dog with titles. You want it. So it's one of those things where I do both. Like I work with both registered and unregistered lines, which some breeders are like, you're a horrible person. You can't do that. Don't do that. But then at the same time, I go, well, I was going to one of the top breeders for Pomeranians, and they don't even want a health test for genetics. Like that's what backyard, some even backyard breeders embark to know that their dog's like whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it might be 100% lab but not registered. So they do the embarking just like I would do. And it's like people embark their pets to know what they are, like rescue, right? We've talked about this, rescue dogs. It's like, because it's so helpful. Like, so I got turned right off, and I still own 2 from her that are registered and passed health testing. It just kind of made me think, what else are other breeders hiding behind that? Because if she's one of the well-known in Canada, a lot of her lines are mixed in with a lot of other lines. And it's like, what if I go spend another 8K on a dog or a pairing? And like Grand Champion Pomeranians run like 8K US. The ones coming from like, where is it? Is it South Korea, Thailand? There's a few other where they work like very exclusively with Poms. Like, I think I asked him, I nearly died. I asked this adorable white one and he didn't even have a perfect bite, which I wouldn't have bought anyway. 8K US.
What?
Yeah. To a breeding home, which for me, like I started 2 years ago. I've washed 3 dogs for my program already. So that's like roughly 5K plus another. So I've 7K right then and there. And I've sold 4 dogs and I made 11,000.
Let's just make a quick definition check here, because wash can mean different things in different categories. So, like in service dog training, that means that the dog is not
service capable.
It's not service capable, right? So what does wash mean in the breeding industry?
That's a good question. And keep asking me these, because I say lingo and completely, you were like, what is OFA? I'm like, right, you don't know what that is. Sorry, go ahead. What were you asking again? That threw me off.
What does wash mean in the breeding industry?
So sorry about that. So wash it's basically you wash from your program, meaning that dog is no longer going to be used. So whether you bred that dog already and didn't know, like it could be something that came up later. They could have an injury later in life, like where they're, I keep using patella, but like a knee issue. And then it's like, you're no longer going to use that stud, even though it's environmental. You wash the dog from your program. So that can mean a variety of things to different people. So for us, like we wash Spud from our program. He has a severe underbite. That's just not something I'm willing to breed. It's something other breeders would go, but he has all these other positives. But for me, it's already an issue with Poms. It's very common in Poms to have. So even the best 2 dogs paired can still have a bite issue, right? Because of the jaw and it's small, and I've read about it. So it's one of those things where you just have to decide what you're doing. So most people neuter or spay that dog like right after they decide to wash it, because you obviously don't want it accidentally. And like when you have as many dogs as I do, you have to be on management, because dogs pair like snap of the finger. Dogs are paired, like they can tie within seconds. So I constantly tell people, if you're washing a dog, get them spayed, neutered as soon as you can. It's just one less problem to work, like one less issue to go to one less dog to be open to pairing that you don't want to, basically. But yeah,
and tie means that they're
tie means they're bonding. They're not moving away from each other, and everything is going in and working. We'll put it that way. But yeah, and honestly, like I think of people that have oopsie litters, and I go like, are you not terrified? Like when Tilly and Tater tie, she screams. Like it is not a like great experience for them. I mean, and that's the truth of breeding, and people need to know that. Like, it obviously, what happens is it swells, right? And that's how it stays tied. So if she starts to move away, like I step in and I calm her down, and it's one of those things where people who absolutely despise breeding will be like, see, that's what dogs they do. Like that, it's like people that have kids. It's like we don't look at them and go like, oh my god, like you poor
I do.
soul. I mean,
I do.
I have none, so I do.
We don't have kids either.
But the three of us are like, no kids, dogs. No, but yeah, it's just one of these things. So sorry, yeah. So washing is basically, and then it's up to you. You rehome the dog. Some people do, some people don't. I'm on the fence with Spud, our little guy, because he was my first male. And I'm the type of person who just feels it's meant to be and the right person will come along. I've always been that way with my dogs, and I don't tend to stress. A lot of people get very stressed, if someone falls off their wait list, and I don't know if it's just how I am, but yeah, I'm just chill about situations like that. And I just know that, like, at the end of the day, if a dog doesn't sell, it's ours. Like, that's like, I don't understand when I hear about backyard, well, I do understand why they do it, but just dropping off puppies. Like, and we were saying about that situation where, we were getting into about the Amish mills because, and I'll give a little history on my dogs, because my first two dogs were, I love them, but they were nightmares. Like, Ruger was a rescue, and he was a lot for me. Like, even as someone who was around dog trainers and worked with him, like, he ran like at least, honestly, all in all, like 4 hours a day, like sprinting with other dogs, wrestling. Like, the average person working 9 to 5 would have had a really hard time keeping up with him. And then that's why we see the people that get pushed into it, because if social media, like Instagram, was as big 9 years ago as it was now, I would feel so bad. I would never breed. I would think it's like inhumane and I'm a terrible person and blah, blah. My rescue dog is why I breed. And that literally baffles people. They're like, I don't get it. I'm like, because I work with dogs and I can see how things can go wrong. Like, he's very healthy. I will say, like, he's a healthy dog. And then we get into the mix, the dogs being healthier and all that. I don't know. I know he's a mutt, and I know he's very healthy for 10-ish, but he was also psycho. Like, he was wired. Like, he would jump up and down that's why no one wanted to rescue him when they went in, because he'd be jumping up and down in his kennel like all day. So, like, he was a lot. Like, I genuinely think there was a family interested just before we got there. The girl was kind of like, no, like, we think it would work better with, like, because it's just Mike and I, right? And no kids, no small animal. Well, we had cats, but no, like, gerbils, nothing like that. And they basically said, like, kind of push him off onto those two. I emailed them over the last 9 years. I've never got a reply, ever. Like, that's just, like, the weirdest thing to me. And again, obviously, I have a bit of a skewed view, but I've done both. And I'm kind of like, it's just odd to me. I think they were so thankful I took them and never came back that they just didn't. Like, you'd think they'd be happy and say, like, how is he? But, like, I think they were scared to communicate, like, our door's not open for him. Like, he was a nutbag. Like, God bless him. I love him. But he was. And then this is I hate to tell it, but I tell it because it's educational and people need to know it. I got a puppy from what I would consider an Amish mill. Maybe not so much chill on the mill side on the amount of dogs, but the reproducing at a fast rate, back-to-back pregnancies, no breaks. Here's your dog, show up same day, give me cash. She's not 8 weeks, see you later. You're driving home and I'm like looking at her little vet thing. Rebel is Husky Shepherd. I think she was listed as Lab Shepherd. They don't know what she is. Lab Shepherd Cross is what they think she is. And I did meet Mom, and I did see who Dad could be, which I want to cover dual sires as well. Like, dogs can have multiple fathers. So siblings or puppy siblings can be like half siblings. And that's something people obviously same mother, different dads. And that's something people also don't know. So, like, Rebel could have come from purebred Husky down the road, which I doubt was purebred, but it simply can happen like that. Like, she's way smaller than her brothers. Like, and I thought maybe, so who knows? But anyway, she was the dog that I went on Kijiji and said, I want a dog right now. We can get a puppy. Ruger needs a friend. We'd moved away, which I should add. I was emotional. We had moved away from the kennel. So he was going out with me, but not with his dog friends. Like, we moved 2.5 hours, and I was at first doing the commute, but I worked 12-hour shifts, and it was just like it just didn't make sense. So anyway, I pulled out from that, and I just felt like I looked at him and I was like, I can't take him to a dog park, because I was at that point done with dog parks. And I was like, so what am I going to do? So then, same day, it was March 17th. We got her, brought her home, and that was that. And she's been the bane of my existence since. Like, love her, but...
I want to go back for just a minute because we touched on the Amish thing here for a second, and you also touched on the dual siring. And I want to kind of just say, I want to go into a little bit of an explanation here because, like you said, a lot of people don't know about this. And as a vet tech, this is something that I've seen, happen multiple times. And I know as a breeder, you've seen it too. But the problem with these, like the Amish breeding and the backyard breeding and the puppy mill situations, and then they have, these litters of puppies and they're not paying attention to their pairings. This is when, we get these mixed litters of puppies and we have complications with pregnancies because we're breeding dogs that shouldn't be bred. The female should always be smaller, mess that up. The female should always be bigger than the male. The male should be the smaller of the two dogs because when a female dog gets pregnant, she needs to have a body that's big enough to carry the puppies. And if the male dog is bigger than the female dog, the puppies will most likely be too big for the female to carry them safely. This can cause problems with her pregnancy. This can cause problems with her giving birth. This can lead to C-sections. This can lead to, self-aborting and all kinds of things like that. So it's really, really, really important that you know what you're doing when you're breeding because there are all of these little intricacies that can happen. And yes, a female dog can carry more than one litter at a time produced by two different fathers. Cats can do it too. But it's
rabbits as well.
Yeah. It's something, that it's not a human thing. We don't do that, but dogs can do it. And so you might be going into a breeding situation and being told, oh yeah, it's a golden retriever, but 6 months later, this thing does not look like a purebred golden retriever. It kind of looks like maybe it has some shepherd or something else in it. It's because they weren't watching their pairings and you got it from somebody who was not a responsible breeder. And those are things that are really, really important to note here. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you do specifically with your clients and your contracts? Because I want people to understand what they should be looking for when they go into a healthy breeding situation.
Yep. So first off, I always use kind of the slogan, your breeder should be wanting to know as much about you as you are them. So if you have a breeder, you think you're talking to I'm just going to start off with the scams right away. If you think you're talking to a breeder and they say to you, basically, I can get it here within this time frame for shipping, but you need to send a $500 deposit and let me know when you've sent it, bow out right then and there, because I guarantee this person doesn't even own dogs and they're probably not selling puppies. That's the first thing I want to say. But my process, I basically try to make it idiot proof and impulsive proof. Because the biggest issue I see going on right now is, and Jerry talks about this a lot, is impulsive buying and rescuing. There is a huge issue with people just going, oh, I saw this online, I want it now. That's the society we live in. I want it now. How many times have you stood in line for your coffee being like, oh, I'm going to murder everyone in front of me. Let me get my coffee. But it's natural because it's what we're used to. We're used to sell immediate gratification. And that's the first thing that I want to know too with people. If they're wanting to jump to the next breeder who has puppies sooner, I get a kind of a whiff of that right away. So it starts off super simple. I don't do a lot of communicating with people until they put in an application. On my Instagram, for example, I have an FA or a question and answer, which I'll send them immediately. If I have someone that's interested, I send them that. I send them apply here, and I send them my website. And I basically say this is you figuring out if I seem right for you beyond the cute picture you just saw. Because the reality is my Poms are cute. They're very cute. They're great dogs, but you don't know anything about me. And the reality is, and I think this is where people get disconnected. And we were talking with this, people think that it's all how you raise them. It's all how you raise them. And the reality is, you just said it. The dog could have a different dad than another dad. And that genetic makeup between a Malinois and something else could be so different. And you have no idea what you're getting into. So my first thing I ask for is application. And my application is pretty thorough. I honestly think it only takes people 15, 20 minutes, but I basically say like, this is me kind of interviewing you. So like, if you're planning on spending, $3,000, $2,500 on a dog, like, tell me more about you. And it goes over like, who's in the home, allergies, what do you do for work? Once they get the application filled out, then I ask to do a call with them. So what often happens is we'll set up a call that works best for them. And even if I typically do 2 calls if they have kids. I always tell people it's really hard. The first call is very informative and like, this is our pricing, this is what we do. And kids are like, can I see the puppies? Like, they don't want to hear it. So oftentimes I'll do a first call just to get to know them and go over their application. So if it's like something on there that says like, oh, a dog park, I'll be like, hey, can we kind of talk about this a little bit more? If they have questions for me, we go over that. And if there's time, I let them meet. If I have puppies on the ground, I let them meet them. If it's one of those times where they're in a rush and I don't feel like I've gotten enough kind of to like make a decision, we just set up another call. And that's when I can introduce mom and dad, which is super important. Show them the puppies if we have any. And if not, then we go over like how our wait list works. So basically after those calls, it's like you're approved or you're not. I honestly have only sold 4 puppies and I had amazing families, like super dedicated. Most of them had owned POMs already. I think 2 out of 3 owned POMs already. So like they really had an understanding of the breed, which is what we see a lot. Like it's someone who's had a Pomeranian for the last 15 years. They passed and now they're ready for a new one. But yeah, so I let them know if they're approved. I've never had to deny anyone. I have for bunnies, simply from people just applying and being like, oh, hey, pellets outside. And I'm like, no, because if you don't have the time and dedication to show me, like, to fill out an application, to me, it's kind of like, are you going to clean their cage? Like, are you going to clean their pen? Sorry. Or are you going to brush them? Are you going to get their nails trimmed, take them to the vet? Like, if you can't fill out a 15-minute application, that just instantly turns me off. Just talking honestly. So if you are applying for a dog, think of it as like, these dogs are our lives. Like, you get a good feel for a breeder right away if they want to know you, about your kids, other pets in the home. It's super important. And then I want to talk a little bit about agreements, because this is what really defines, and it's loose term for backyard breeders, but they don't watch where their puppies go. And like, this is why shelters are so full, because no one is watching where these dogs go. And a lot of people will argue with me online and be like, well, at the end of the day, that dog could end up in a shelter and you'll lose touch. Well, the dog's microchipped to me as a secondary, which is super important. So like, in my opinion, anyone, like either rescues, breeders, backyard breeders, microchip your dog, like microchip the dogs to you. And then what happens is a lot of microchips will do this, where once the owner takes over, I'll switch. So they're primary and I'll be secondary, because obviously, as I was saying to Em, if I'm in Alberta, but like I just had 4 puppies sold in Ontario, I don't want them calling me if someone finds the dog. I want them calling the owner. But I am a back contact. If, they don't answer, they don't pick up, like I can help out even from here. Same thing is if they turn around and go, I don't want this dog anymore, and I'll get into my take back policy, but they want to resell the dog, which is a lot that can be an issue, is people like, I want my money back, because I don't offer refunds. Like, if you've had a dog for a year and it's coming back to me, I don't offer you your puppy price back, because that was the cost of raising the dog till 8 weeks. And that was the cost of, AI, if I needed AI, or, reproductive tests. Like, it's all so expensive and people don't realize. So
real quick, AI is not artificial intelligence, I'm guessing.
Yeah, sorry. Insemination. Yeah, I totally forget. And I don't do it often, so I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, some breeders have to do that. Like they literally bring in chilled semen from other provinces if they can't find a stud, which is one of my issues now here in Alberta. There's quite a few backyard breeders. A lot of them are in groups where they just post like, hey, my dog's smart and great with kids, and I want to get 1 puppy back from 1 litter. And it's like, do you understand what can go wrong and how traumatized your children will be when your dog dies because you have absolutely no idea what you're doing? Like, and can you get through it? Sure. Sometimes it can go where you just have a mom who like, she opens each like sack that the puppy's in. She knows what to do with the umbilical cord. But like, even my Tom needed support last litter. Like, it's not realistic to just be like breeding whatever to whatever. And like you said, size wise, it's so important. And I, again, just washed. So I'm spaying and finding homes for 2 of my girls, because 1 had anxiety. So immediate we just couldn't work it out of her. And that to me is genetics. So, and I had her full sister who didn't have that, but is way too small to breed. She's 5 pounds. So I called it right there. And this is another kind of ethical dilemma I run into, is that if I followed POM guidelines for standards for showing, so like CKC standards, POM should be maximum 7 pounds. So you get into a lot of issues where you're really promoting dogs that shouldn't be breeding. Like, because if you want to stay within that guideline, I don't breed anything under 5.5 pounds, because you're at like way bigger risk for C-section. And then obviously there's other things we do to check anatomy and stuff to make sure that we think that they're going to do okay. But people do not realize like the risks of breeding and how quickly it can go wrong. And that's what gets me when I read these like horror stories. Like there was one recently with one of the rescues I support and follow. It was a Frenchie, and they said they bought the dog pregnant and didn't know, which I don't know how. She was in labor within 24 hours. So I don't know how a Frenchie can't walk when they're that pregnant. Like they can't move. I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, they called the rescue because they just got this dog and they paid for it. Well, she was pregnant in labor for over 3 days. Those puppies are dead. And she's very lucky to be alive, because you just go septic. It's like if you were like, you know how women, if you leave a baby in there at a certain point, you can't. They have to do a procedure and they take it out. And then I think of all these backyard breeders, and I'm like, I just hear of the horror stories, right? Because I do, and like I talk about this openly. I should have started off with that, but like I'm a very big believer that rescuing is for some people, and you can do it responsibly, and you can also buy from a breeder responsibly. And I think this whole I could go off on a tangent about it, but the adopt don't shop is so one-sided and so wrong and uneducated. And like, we spoke about this, and I say it all the time, but people literally get denied from rescues for not having a backyard, or for not, or for having a kid. And maybe that dog didn't fit, and I get that. But just for example, like, I don't ask about your backyard. I ask, how will you exercise your dog? Because that is a more appropriate way. Because if you're applying for a job, I hope to God you plan to exercise it. And we're going to discuss, like, a lot of people say, oh, we have this walking trail by my house. Or like if they're in an apartment, they'll tell me where they're going to go. And that's better than just saying, oh, how many of us can afford a backyard? Like, a lot of us cannot. They're just way too expensive. And I know a lot of people that are in apartments, especially with POMs too, but it's frustrating to me. And then that person will finally, do the research. They'll find a breeder that they love and respect, and they'll get the dog that they want, and they'll make, Finnegan's the Doodles page, and they will get destroyed online for, or Labrador. Let's pick Lab instead of Doodle, so it's not so controversial. But they'll start, Sammy the Lab, and oh my God, people start talking to them, adopt, don't shop. How dare you? Like, I've seen pet people be attacked for making a good choice, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you will work best for that dog. And if you do not think about your needs, then you're not going to be able to put that dog above it. And that's just, and it happened to me. So it's just one of those things where you really got to think it through.
And we've talked about this before on the show many times, that researching breeds and finding a dog that fits your needs. And, going to a shelter, you don't always know what you're going to get, because the dog in the shelter is a dog that's different when you get it home and decompressed. Mm-hmm. So there's like a lot of big gaps and a lot of big transitional kind of things that people need to really be paying attention to that we're not paying attention to. We're just throwing accusations at each other and trying to cancel people, and it's just really not healthy. So that's kind of why, I wanted you to come on here tonight and talk about these things. Unfortunately, we are running out of time.
I told you I could go on forever.
So we're definitely going to have you come back, Carly, and continue this conversation, because there is so much more
to
be said. Much. But if you could, please give me your top 3 red flags for what is not an ethical breeder.
Okay, so first off the bat is health testing. Number 1, bare minimum, a breeder needs to be genetically testing. So whether that's Embark or Wisdom Panel, anything above those 2 names, I don't trust. I wouldn't trust a breeder using them because they're not accurate. So health testing, number 1. Preferably also OFAs or some sort of physical, the vet has signed off on their patellas, however you want to say it, but ideally OFAs and embark bare minimum. Another red flag for me, so no health testing, one. Number two would be not asking questions and not screening their buyers. So if they're basically saying to you, send me $500, we're good, let's go. No, because they're not valuing where their dogs are going. Who knows? You could be giving it to Dahmer. Like, you have no idea who you're giving your dogs to. So that, and I'm trying to think of another one. I have so many. Not wanting to show. So I'll tell this very quickly. I don't allow visitors to my home. We've had a bad experience with a rabbit breeder previously, and it's just something I won't risk anymore. Someone who was very unhinged, very mentally ill, and risked our safety. And I just told my husband, I'm done. So what my biggest thing is, in 2024, I don't feel like you need to enter a breeder's home, risk biosecurity. And the reality is, when you see those puppies, that's not necessarily their personality. You could see a sleepy puppy and go, oh, that's the calmest one. And I'm like, no, it's not. So I get people to trust in my temperament testing and whatnot, but not showing setup and not knowing about their breeds. Sorry, that's kind of double whammy, but not knowing their breeds well. Like, a lot of them will breed whatever's trendy, right? So like the Doodles, the Frenchies, so that, and again, not showing like programming for me, and we'll talk about this next time I'm on, but programming for me, like showing them getting exposed to outside, showing them getting exposed to new objects. Like, I do a pool noodle for my dogs and put it in there and see how they do. So you want to see not just pictures, and you want to hear from that breeder continually. If they just say, oh yeah, you're approved, come get your dog, don't buy that dog. And I know you want to save that dog, but you're not saving that dog. You just put more money in their pocket, and they're going to go rebreed it because their overhead's next to nothing, and they can keep going. And that's just how it works. So those are major red flags, and I'm sure I'll come up with more for next time I'm on. But yeah, health testing, like, if you're buying thousands of dollars worth of dog, you need to make sure it's healthy. Like, if you're going to take on a rescue and they're like, check, things are good, that's fine. And I get it. They do a pre-vet exam and they basically just say, dog's good to go, take them to your vet. But if you're spending thousands of dollars, there is absolutely no reason they should not be health tested. Like, it's bare minimum. And then again, yeah.
My not part of dog Instagram, not part of any of this
there's
opinion.
War going on right now.
I understand. I that part has reached me.
You got that part.
Yeah. I have done 30 some episodes of this podcast. But here's where my 2 cents is, and if you're upset and you're gonna yell, that's fine, internet, because I don't look at you. So
you're the perfect person to say it like it is.
I am a rescue person because I will put time and commitment understanding that there may be trauma with that dog. That is the reason that I don't do puppies. Is because I do not have the temperament for puppies. I do not have the temperament for children. But that's what I see it as, is there are certain people that a puppy that is coming out of a breeder, especially an ethical breeder that has receipts, which is really what it comes down to. That's what all this embark and everything else is. It's receipts that they know what the hell they're doing. And when it goes wrong, you have the people that are willing to do the rescue, that are willing to put in the time to help that dog. I also understand that if I get a rescue dog, it could have health problems. I may only have that dog for 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. These are the things you have to think about. So I'm on both sides of this. Again, yell at me all you want. I can't hear you.
Okay. And they can yell at me. I am on both sides of this. This is what this whole platform is for, is we are presenting both sides of this discussion so that the listeners can make informed decisions.
Yes. And that's the point of my page, because I'm like, I've rescued. I bought from a backyard breeder, Amish breeder. You can get as low as you go. That's pretty much as low as you can go. And now I breed. So I like knowing what I'm bringing into the world. That's my forte. That's what I'm good at. And I'm good at finding the right families for said dog. So far, anyway. I've had a good track record.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We are not here on this podcast to tell you what you should do. We're just here to give you a place that has valid information from people who have experience in whatever we are talking about on the episode, so that the listeners can go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, now I can look at this. And then they can reach out to you, or they can reach out to me, or they can
Exactly.
Whoever, and have more in-depth conversations. This is just a starting point. This is not the end-all, be-all. We know everything. We have never, ever claimed to say that we know everything. We're just trying to provide people with a place to start, because sometimes starting some of these topics on your own is really difficult, and the information
It's daunting. Yeah.
is not out there, or there's too much, or there's too little,
Or it's one-sided. It's very
or if one-sided. Yeah.
You just went to Instagram. Like, my algorithm just switched, but before that, it was all Adopt Don't Shop. Like, it was me. It was challenging every single time. Now I get kind of both. Like, it's starting to, but I get everything. Like I've been called dirty pimp. I've been called anything. I was called dirty pimp before producing a puppy. I was like, I wanted to make a reel with a faux fake like cane and coat, and I couldn't find one because I definitely went to the Value Village to look for one. It would have been great. Just
look for the future Dirty Pimp Straight Up Dog Talk shirts coming to you.
Worldwide.
Carly's face, like, right?
Carly special.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are going to wrap it up for this episode of Straight Up Dog Talk. But Carly, we are definitely going to have you back.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
And I hope you guys learned something tonight on this episode of Straight Up Dog Talk, and we will see you next week.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited, produced, and co-hosted by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.